Hello, hello, it's me again, the snarky juror. I was caught unawares there. Okay, we got to stop doing this. This thing keeps going fuzzy on me. You having trouble seeing me? I know I'm mostly invisible most of the time. Let's try that. Oh well, I'm not the important one anyway. I'm back for day 6. I won't be presenting the whole thing because my nerves can't handle the whole thing. I'm going to try this again. My understanding is that you get it to focus close up and then you pull it back and it will focus as you go back. Yeah, well, I can't afford anything new, so. You make do with what you got. That's what I learned growing up. You make do with what you got. But I guess I moved too fast, and that's why it's blurring. Because I was busy doing things like a walk in the park, things like a kiss in the dark, things like a sailboat ride. What about the night we cried? What is that? Things. Da, 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 things that we don't do now. Thinking about the things we used to do. Don't know why that popped into my head. I really don't. You like my new hat? It's for the days where I just, can you tell my hair is like, do I need to be closer? I don't want to scare y'all. Okay, what I'm doing today is a little bit different than what I did last time. Last time meaning trial 1, the persecution of Karen Reed, chapter 1. What I want to do today is Ian Whiffin is on deck, and he's like, this is the second day. He's like, he's the digital forensic examiner from Celebrite, who has systematically discounted Celebrite and what they do because of the errors in the system. I don't know if he's going to have a job there when he gets done, because that's very much the impression I was getting. Okay, I need to present. Share screen of this one. Okay, now then, I'm going to play a couple snippets of, I don't like that. Don't like that. I like that. All right, do we have closed captioning and all that stuff? Let's find out. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. We'll start there. And they're going up the sidebar, of course. It's like the first thing they do every time. Well, this isn't first thing. This is like almost an hour into the testimony. So let's get it going a little.
May I stand by the witness?
Sure.
Tell me when you've had a fair opportunity to take a look at that.
This is Mr. Alessi. They call him Scissor Hands. He's very precise in his cross-examination.
Okay.
Thank you.
And he pretty much tears this guy
Mr.
down to
Whiffin, does
nothing.
that refresh your recollection with regard to an aperture report that discusses a trigger of 1162.2?
It does, thank you.
Pardon me?
It does, thank you.
And how does it refresh your recollection?
I remember seeing that several months ago.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. There's a blower on here that I'm having trouble hearing Mr. Whiffin. If you, sir, could bring the mic, it's not your fault. If you could bring it and speak a little louder, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I recall seeing that as part of the report that I read 2 months ago.
Can you tell he's not
recall
American?
The time of 12:31:38 now, correct?
Correct.
Let's go back to your timeline.
I think the timeline is why I wanted to show this.
82. So you just spoke about a trigger 1162.2 associated with a time of 12:31:38, and we are now at the timeline of 12:31:56, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
We are now going back to the timeline, deck
Good
82, and you see up at the top where it says health 31:56. You see that, sir?
I do.
And then it says start of health event, 36 steps, 25 meters, which we have said is 84 feet or so. And this is when the device begins moving, correct?
Correct.
And that is after the trigger of 1162.2, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let's go to the next entry
I don't understand
on the
these things.
timeline, which is 12:32:03. You see that? That's Doppler.
I do.
And then you state pocket state cleared. Is the phone at that time in a pocket?
It's impossible for me to say. I can say that the camera was blocked, but I don't know what was blocking it.
You're saying at this point the camera is blocked?
It had been blocked, and at that point, it became unblocked.
So at this
Okay, what we're talking about is John O'Keefe's phone. And they're using information from 3 different things to figure out where it is, where it's moving to, et cetera, et cetera. They're using the health information, Doppler. I think that's got to do with, checking face recognition. No, the device unlocked with Face ID. Anyway, it becomes a jumble for me. But unless he's going through this and trying to clarify the timeline that Mr. Whiffin came up with, and trying to point out the holes in it, if people would stop objecting.
point, it became unblocked from a previous block status, correct?
Yes.
Does there have to be some human manipulation of the phone at 12:32:03 for that to happen?
Technically not. There are scenarios that wouldn't require it.
Is it more likely than not that there had to have been some human contact in action for this pocket state clearing event to occur?
Yes.
12:32:04 is.
And 12:32, by this time, Miss Reed had left the residence because she'd gotten upset because John didn't text her, call her, do anything to let her know, okay, come on in, or okay, I'm staying, you can go ahead and go. Nothing. She heard absolutely nothing. She was pissed. She was upset. She was heading home, or to his home, because she'd had enough. Okay. So that's setting the stage. So all this stuff is identifying where John's phone is, and therefore associating where John should be, because John should be with his phone, logically speaking, but not this place. So that's why they're trying to zero in. Okay, in order for this to happen, there has to be facial ID. Well, all you have to do is pick up somebody's phone and put it in front of somebody's face to get it to unlock, right? So he's asking, okay, well, does this have to be manually manipulated either by the owner or somebody else trying to set things up? Now, we all know what I think. It's a setup from day one. Pin it on the girl, because we can't pin it on the people who caused the accident that ended up in a death, because the people did not want to be associated with it. They didn't want to own up to what they did because they beat him up. He ended up mortally wounded. And originally they were going to blame it on the snowplow driver. But, enter Karen Reed. We'll pin it on the girl. And I forget who said that, but it's somewhere.
The next, it's a type unlock, device unlock with Face ID. You see that, sir?
I do.
Is there some human action that has to occur for the device to unlock with Face ID?
Typically, you must be paying attention to the phone.
Sorry, sir?
You must be paying attention to the phone, assuming that that setting's enabled.
So someone had to be looking at the phone.
Yes.
At 12:32:05, application focus. What does that mean?
That the messages application was at the foreground of the device being used.
Next entry, 12:32:06. We discussed this. It says read message, pull behind me. And that is associated with a Jen McCabe. It's the Jen McCabe message of 31:47, correct?
Correct.
And
We'll hear from her next.
does a human have to be reading that for that entry to be made?
The message needs to be on screen. If the conversation with Jen McCabe was already on screen when the device was unlocked, then that message would automatically be considered read.
Next entry, app lock, 12:32:09, end application focuses messages, and then it says device locked with lock button for the last time. That requires human interaction with the phone, correct?
Correct.
And it actually requires somebody to take the cell phone and press the side button to do that, correct?
It does, yes.
So there has to be some degree of coordination for that to occur, for a human to be able to have something that hits that button, correct?
Certainly, yes.
That's
Unfortunately, by now, us conspiracy theorists believe John was already mortally wounded, unable to move because of the blow to the back of his head. I think they said it's a 3-inch deep, like he fell back onto something that was like on a ledge or lifted up. He wouldn't have been able to do any of this. He was targeted as soon as he entered that house. So God bless John O'Keefe. God bless his grieving family. But especially God bless and protect Karen Reed, because she did none of this.
Do you understand what a term fine motor skill means? Do you
Yes.
understand that? And would that person have to be using fine motor skills to do that?
Yes.
Next entry, 12:32:16. End of health event, 36 steps, 25 meters, again, 84 feet. That is in your timeline because that's when you believe the end of the health event, the end of the 36 steps occurred, correct?
That is the time that the device data shows the end of the health event, yes.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to get into some mapping. And the 84 feet he just got done mentioning is roughly the distance from the front of the house, the yard, to where the roadway is, to the front door.
Do you need the light, Mr. Lessie?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you,
Could we
Your
have the
Honor.
lights, please, Dave?
His own phone is telling everybody that he went in the house, no matter what anybody said. And that was a fatal mistake for him.
Do you recall writing in your March 2025 report the following? The final health activity of note on John's phone can be seen to have occurred between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, during which 36 steps were recorded, covering a distance of 25.4 meters, again, that 84 feet, according to healthdbsecure.db. Do you recall writing that?
I do.
And you used in your report 36 steps were recorded covering a distance of 25.4 meters or 84 feet, correct?
Correct.
Do you know a trooper named Nicholas Garino?
I'm aware of him, yes.
Are you a little more than aware of him? You've worked with him on this case, haven't you?
He sent me some of the files related to it, but further than that, I've got no relationship with him.
But isn't someone sending you files on a case you're working on, working with the person? Isn't that a fair conclusion?
It could be.
The technicalities these guys come up with.
Do you recall reading any reports of Nicholas Garino?
I don't recall reading a report by Nick.
Does that mean you didn't read it, or you just don't recall reading it?
I honestly can't remember if I did or not. I remember some of the reports that I read for this case. I don't recall if one was by Nick.
Would it refresh your recollection if I showed you a portion of his report to determine whether you would have read it?
Please.
Knows him by his first name.
Moment, Your Honor, please.
Sure.
Of course, there's a lot of people who run around and only introduce themselves by their first name. Because later he mentions Hank, but he doesn't remember quickly that it's Brennan. Or earlier. I'm not sure. I saw it somewhere. I've got to figure out what that key code is.
Thank you, Your Honor.
There's a one keystroke you can do, and it will move it forward a little bit at a time. There's two keys. You hit one, it goes forward. You hit another one, it goes back.
Yes.
Like 5 or 6 seconds or something.
Show Mr. Brennan.
Yes. I want to make sure I got the right report. Mr.
Thank you.
May I ask? Thank you. I'm providing you with a document and I asked if that reflects your election as to whether you read the report of
A report of this.
this report.
He is so polite. And he's very polite. He contradicts a lot of stuff I say. He doesn't bash him like Brown did yesterday. He doesn't demean him or try to make him feel small. He just uses the facts, stresses a few things.
I don't recall ever seeing this report.
Have you ever had any conversations with Trooper Nicholas Garino?
Very briefly.
But you had, the answer is yes.
Yes.
He knows him
Did
by Nick.
Trooper Garino tell you that he measured the distance from the flagpole to the front door and it was 72 feet? Did he ever tell you that?
Get to the phone.
Sustain.
Did you ever have a conversation with Trooper Nick Garino about the distance from the flagpole to the front door of 34 Fairview?
Maybe.
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 So is it maybe then you had a conversation with him in which he stated to you that that distance is 72 feet?
It's maybe.
So if we go back to what we were discussing earlier
I believe this is the chart.
about
and the reason
the steps and the distance covered,
I hope I've got the right place.
and this is in your report of March 2025, where we've talked about this, and it's the final health activity of note on John's phone can be seen to have occurred between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16.
Is this the correct slide?
No, it's
So
not.
let's take
Yeah,
it down.
Thank you, Your Honor. Let me start that over. The final health activity of note on John's phone could be seen to have occurred between 12:31:56 and 12:32:16, during which 36 steps were recorded, covering a distance of 5.4 meters, or 84 feet. 84 feet is greater than 72 feet, correct?
Correct.
So if the distance from the flagpole to the front of the house is 72 feet, and your report notes 36 steps covering a distance of 84 feet, that would put those steps within the house, correct?
It would.
Yes. So there's proof
Let's
there.
continue on with the timeline. Deck
I
80.
can't find the map. Let's see if it's
Other
here.
programs had, correct?
Again, if I could explain a little bit about how it works.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
If you could just respond to my question. Is that correct?
The timestamp's been removed, yes.
However, the competitor of Celebrite that we just talked about, Magnet Forensics Axiom,
Yes.
that program at the first proceeding showed the 2:27:40 a.m. timestamp, correct?
Correct.
And as a matter of fact, as you sit here today, the Magnet Forensics program, Axiom, still shows the 2:27:04 a.m. timestamp, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Notable.
All right.
You did not include that depiction in
This is
your timeline. Location data at this time is not known, as there are many possible reasons why the accuracy was be reduced. There's a little grammar issue there, but
Correct.
in fairness to you, sir, we do that when we write long reports. But I think that your intention here is, why the accuracy is reduced at
Was
this
reduced,
point,
yes.
correct?
Correct.
Thank you. This could include reasons such as the device entered a building covered area, the result of weather conditions, geography, poor connectivity, or interference, to name a few. So those are the reasons you gave, which could contribute to some low accuracy, correct?
Correct.
Interesting, the very first reason you gave is that the
Entering a
device
building.
could be entering a building or covered area. And that phraseology could include a house, correct?
Correct.
It could include a garage attached to the house, correct?
Correct.
And it could include the house at 34 Fairview, and it could include the garage attached to the house at 34 Fairview, because both of those are buildings or covered areas, correct?
Correct.
Then you go on in the next paragraph to say it is known that the device was not being used at this time, and is this time that include that 12:37, 12-minute range, 12:25 to 12:37?
Yes, it was not being used for location purposes.
So that's another reason why, right, the accuracy could be a little bit on the lower side.
Correct.
Now, the next paragraph says, at 12:38:13, when the device begins recording higher, and that's relative to what it was recording before. It's not that it's high, but it's higher than what it was just moments before.
Correct.
The data centers on a location slightly closer to the house than the roadside. Although several records show the same center coordinate with differing accuracy radii. Some of these location records are shown in the map below in white. So let's go down and look at what you had in your report for the area in white. In the area in white that you're referring to, there are two white circles, the largest one there. This, in fact, was a depiction you included in your report on page 29, correct?
Correct.
Interesting and notable. You did not include that depiction in your timeline that you discussed with the jury yesterday, did you?
And the answer is no, he didn't. And he pointed out several instances, like the data showed from the phone that it was now heading west, which was directly at the house. But he didn't put that in what he presented to the jury. It's in his report. All of these things are in his report, but it was not emphasized to the jury. There's at least 3 things that he did that way, which tells me Brennan was heavy-handed, or Mr. Whiffin is in cahoots with blame it on the girl. You know, it's one thing. No, I won't even go there, because there's no excuse for this. None whatsoever. Because from day one, he never came in the house. That man was never in our home. BS. If you look on the map here, the area that is the radius of the possible location of the phone covers half of the house. It covers half of the house. There's no excuse for what they do. None. They want to pinpoint it down here. If I'm not mistaken, this is where the flagpole is. And this is where they say everything happened. And it's a bunch of BS. People who have a grain of common sense can see it right off the bat. So anyway, that's why I wanted to bring this up. Because out of what I watched, that's the gist of what I got. And it's a shame that Mr. Whiffin is going to go under the bus and possibly lose his job. I mean, if he was an employee of mine and he was saying stuff that discounted the worthiness of the main program of the company, he wouldn't be working there long for me. Okay. Let's get rid of that. How do I get rid of that? I remove it. Yay! I sort of did that, right? Okay. Now, what I want to do now, I'll probably get in trouble for, but I don't care. Because usually what I do is, no, that's not what I want. I got to get rid of that first. Usually what I do is I watch and cover and comment. And I've said this many, many times. And then when I'm done doing my part, I go and watch other people. Well, I'm doing a shortcut here, and I'm going to share with you one of those other people and what they see and think and hear. And the one I want to share to you with, oops, that's not what I wanted. What I want to share with you is here we go. Did I bring it up? Yep, I brought it up. This is attorney Melanie Little. Attorney. So she knows what she's talking about. She has followed this case since the very beginning. She has more knowledge about the whole thing than anybody else I follow. She stops a lot when she's doing the coverage, but that's because she has a lot to say, and she calls BS when she sees it. So this is Jennifer McCabe, one of the ringleaders, as far as I'm concerned, of coordinating things so people got rid of this and got rid of that, and don't say this and don't say that, and you know. The theory that I believe is her nephew, Colin Albert, and his uncle, who is married to her sister, started fighting with John O'Keefe. The dog got involved, did damage, and then it could have been the punch that put the big egg on his forehead. It could have been the dog jumping on him that threw him back to hit they had barbells. They had a gym down in the basement. And a picture was shown at one time of the, I don't know if it was one of the 5-pound dumbbells or one of the bigger ones, but whatever it is that it sits on juts out like this. And John O'Keefe possibly was knocked back on that. So even though it was an assault, it wasn't an assault to kill, but it ended up doing that. That's my theory from everything that I've paid attention to. Anyway, they're all protecting the kid, is what's going on. They're all protecting the kid. And they've done that his entire life. You know, oh, I never fight. And then they you know, high school footage of stuff. I'm going to beat you up. Only it's not beat, it's duck. But, you know, he's a big, tough guy, you know? And he's not. He's a wimp. Especially since he won't own up to any actions that he did. If it was an accident, you might get some jail time or whatever. You might have to suffer a little. But to turn around, the cover up is always worse than the actual crime. And I hope they get their comeuppance soon. But at the very least, they've got to prove that Karen Reed didn't do it. Having said all that, I want to share some of the testimony of Jennifer McCabe with Melanie Little giving her commentary and how she does it. I wish I had the knowledge that she has. I don't. I can only go by how things strike me. And there's a lot of things I miss because the nuances sometimes, you know, I have no clue. So we'll see whether or not I get struck for this. I don't think Melanie would, because I'm giving proper credit. I don't think she'd have a problem with it. So let's watch a while of this, and if you I'll either go. Brain does not work. We can go watch it clean afterwards, or go ahead and let her take us to the end. And somewhere in here, I don't know what happened or when it happened. The ARCA boys, I guess they're allowed to testify, because a comment is made. I bet Brennan kind of soiled his britches when she came down with that ruling. So we'll see. So let me get to the correct. There it is.
That second call was answered, he said. Oh, here comes Bella's mom. Okay, hang on.
And he was trying to find it.
Trying to find the address?
Try to find the house on Fairview.
This is after they were all met up at the waterfall, and they were invited to the Albert's place to help celebrate their son. Not the one that might be involved. It's his cousin. How does that work? Anyway, celebrate his birthday. And on the way there, John and Karen were having trouble getting there. And so they were asking for directions. Now, this is the next morning, I believe. And they have to again mention an ex-girlfriend of John's in Karen's presence, you know, because she probably got so jealous she just couldn't handle it. Is the seed they're planting.
Did he ask you for help trying to find the address?
I'm not sure his exact words, but yes, he needed help. And so I just said, I told him, just go down the street, go by Bella's house. It's at the bottom of the street.
So you used Bella's house as a point of designation to try to guide him to get to your sister's house?
Yes.
Tell us who Bella was to John.
Hold on. Not only did she bring up Bella while he's in the car with Karen to try and piss her off and make her jealous, but Carrie Roberts said that they brought up Bella's mom again in the morning. More gaslighting at its finest. With friends like her, you don't need enemies. And with friends like Carrie Roberts, you don't have a good support system. When the other witnesses tell you, believe what they're telling you.
Whoops.
The question on the table is, will you tell us who Bella is?
Bella is my daughter and John's niece friend. So Bella is friends with my daughter, John's niece.
Her name's Ashley, yeah.
And
She
was
does
there
have a name.
any relation?
And when you compare her testimony from last time with this time, they're sidestepping a lot of stuff. And Melanie will mention it if she hasn't already. That they had the timeline just so precise. And everybody has to stick to the timeline. It's just so precise. Well, this time around, the timeline has changed according to science. And so she's having to do some quick sidestepping to avoid pitfalls, shall we say?
Relationship between Bella's mother and John that you knew of?
Yeah, because how does she know about John's relationship with Bella's mom? Her name's Ashley. This was absolutely in the first trial. She did testify to this, but this time they added it, I think, in the morning too.
They're doing sidebar.
Okay.
And when they do
Ooh,
that,
look at us catching up to real time. Well, I don't know what it is with the ads, but we can.
I guess people are complaining that there's ads even though they have premium or
I've
something.
never heard of people having ads in my live
YouTube's
streams
doing
before.
all
People
kinds of
said
crazy
not
things.
set to not run ads, but I also heard that YouTube is changing its ad policy, but it wasn't supposed to be until May. Yeah, look at them trying to listen to the sidebar.
And I didn't mean to talk over her. But I'm young and innocent.
Now. Yeah, see, some people have never seen ads. I mean, for $4 a week, you guys, YouTube Premium is worth it, especially if you're watching YouTube all day long. I gain nothing from this. I have no stock in YouTube. But if YouTube Premium is $4 a week, and you watch it all day long, and you're not paying for cable because you're watching YouTube all day, it's completely 100% worth it, in my opinion.
You know, the minute I try to fast forward this,
Oh, I thought they were frozen because Polo Keith hasn't moved in a while, but the guy in the
To drink, takes out an umbrella, and will dance. So it's a family joke.
Yeah, she called her sister a drunk at the last trial too, so I guess her sister knew it was coming. Don't know which sister it was, but we have a sister who likes to drink a lot. Let's hear that again. Oh, there you go. There's a good one.
she has
Screamer.
fun with that.
I know there's a lot of people in the chat that hate Jennifer McCabe, and there's this and that and the other, but let's try and refrain from comments about her personal appearance, and let's just talk about her testimony and her demeanor, because we're better than that, right, guys? Thank you.
Well, I have one sister who sometimes has a little too much to drink, takes out an umbrella, and will dance. So it's a family joke.
While you
Family
were
joke?
at your sister's house, what area of the house were you spending time in?
And I was in the kitchen.
What was the mood of everybody in the house, as far as you remember?
Everybody was in a great mood.
Was there any fighting?
No,
Any arguing?
no,
Any violence?
no.
Was it
Not
a
yet.
celebratory mood?
Yes.
No
As
violence
you were in
yet.
the house, were you waiting for anybody else that you expected to come?
Yes, I was expecting John and Karen to come.
At some point when you were in the kitchen,
What about the tall, dark-haired man that Brian Albert saw that's never been yet identified that he admitted to seeing in the last trial after he may or may not have taken a federal proffer? What about that guy? Did you see that guy?
Nope.
Tell him the guy never went in the house. Why is she sitting on her hands? That's a great point. Again, with the teeth. Can we not talk about the teeth? We're over the teeth.
let me ask you a little background. As you're in the kitchen of that house, can you see outside from the kitchen area?
They had blinds or something down, but if the blinds were up, you could see out.
Were the blinds up?
No.
At any point, were you able to see outside from inside the house?
From the front door, yes.
Is the front door, is it glass?
Yes.
At some point when you were with everybody in the celebration, did you have a chance to look outside?
Yes.
And when you looked outside, what did you see?
I saw a dark SUV out front.
Did you know whose SUV that was?
I believed it was Karen's.
Could you see who was in it?
No,
At that point of night, what does the weather look like from the front door?
it's dark and it's snowing, and I could see, brake lights.
Did you see if that SUV moved at all?
I didn't see the SUV actually move, but I saw it in a few different locations.
How many times did you look out?
Can't give you an exact number of how many times I looked out. I can tell you I saw the vehicle first straight out from the front door. Then I saw it up at the flagpole, and then I saw it
Flagpole.
further up from the flagpole.
Were you studying the car at all?
No, it was quick glances.
Did you have any reason to study it?
No,
What were you expecting was going to happen?
I was expecting John and Karen to come into the house.
Did they ever make it in the house?
No, they did not.
No, I wish they did.
As you were
Shouldn't say I wish
waiting,
they did.
were you doing anything else in addition to waiting for them to come in?
Again, she just licked her lips. He's trying to keep this brief because he knows that she's a talker, and he knows how much she said the first time about plugging her phone in, and she had all these stories about how many times she looked out the window. She saw the car here, then she saw it here, then she saw it here. But she's already testified that that Jeep is in front of like the mailbox. Although she didn't really say exactly where the Jeep is.
Exactly. I remember the same thing.
Yes, so
Were you?
no, they did not.
What were you expecting was going to happen?
I was expecting John
Well-
and Karen to come into the house.
Did they ever make it in the house?
No, they did not.
They didn't.
As you
Did
were
John
waiting-
just alone?
Were you doing anything else in addition to waiting for them to come in?
Yes, so I was sitting at the table. Someone made mention of a car out front, so I got up, went to the door, looked out, and then I would go back to the table, and where we were just all laughing, talking, playing music,
Up and down, up and down.
just hanging out, not really thinking much about anything.
Did you ever reach out to
Couldn't
John
put you-
when you thought the car out front was the defendant's car with John in it? Did you ever reach out to him?
Yes, I did.
How did you reach out to him?
I texted him.
Do you know if there was a phone call that was made to you before 12:30? A 7-second phone call?
From John?
Yes.
I don't.
You mentioned you had spoken to him about directions. Is that the last time you heard his voice?
Yes.
When the car was out front, did you exchange text messages or were you simply texting him?
I was texting him.
Do you remember what you were texting him?
The first time I said here,
What do you mean by here? Was that
like
exclamation point?
hair question mark, because that's when I saw the car.
You were wondering whether that was
Ah.
Yes.
him? Did you
Are
send
they
any other
here?
text?
Whenever that text message was sent that says here, he saw the car. Let's keep that in mind. Put a pin in that.
Messages that you can remember?
After I saw the car move locations,
Demeanor.
Oh, come on. For the love of the
misreads.
traveling Mary.
Yeah.
Why you do that to me?
It does it
Stop
to me
anywhere
too.
along the way before you got to your
All right.
sister's house.
Hold on.
What do you mean by here? Was that
Like
exclamation point?
hair question mark, because that's when I saw the car.
You were wondering whether that was him?
Yes.
Did you send any other text messages that you can remember?
After I saw the car move locations, when I saw it go up to the flagpole, I said, pull behind me.
And do you remember any other communications you had with him? Was he texting you anything?
No,
Did he ever text you again that night?
he never texted me again.
Never called again?
No.
Pull behind me. She was in the driveway. There was room to pull in behind her in the driveway. She drove a giant like Denali. Matt doesn't know what kind of car she drove. I think it was like Denali or a Yukon. It was very tall. Pull behind me. She saw them in front of the house. Did she expect Karen to like back up and pull in behind her? Is there no parking allowed on the street? Questions?
Actually, during a blizzard, there is a ban on the streets. You can get ticketed. The snowplow driver was being very considerate to the Alberts because at was it 2:30 in the morning? No, at 2:30 in the morning, he looked down the street and everything was clear. I take that back. He couldn't go down at 2:30 in the morning because there was a car parked right across from the flagpole. And it was a Ford Edge. And many of the Alberts drive Ford Edges. So I think it was at 3:30 he was able to go down again. And what he would do is he would call them and say, hey, you know, you need to move your car so they don't get a ticket. The plow driver was very considerate like that. That's one of the stories that I heard. And I think that's part of that is what he testified to.
Did you continue to text him?
No,
Did he ever text you again that night?
he never texted me again.
Never called again?
No,
Did you continue to text him over the next 15, 20 minutes?
I did, yes.
And so at some point, did you realize that John O'Keefe and the defendant weren't coming in the house?
Yes, when the car was gone.
Oh, so you saw the car gone.
Did you ever go outside through the...
So you saw the car was gone. You didn't hear a crash. You didn't see a crash. You didn't see a body on the lawn. All 11 of you that left after you saw her car gone
Yep.
didn't see the body on the lawn.
Yep.
But yeah, it was raining men. It was raining men on the front lawn.
Yeah.
Wow. He better keep her brief because the more she talks, the more doors she opens. But I don't know how smart he is. And if you're ahead, please no spoilers because I'm enjoying this too much.
the storm down to the flagpole to speak to them?
No.
Why not?
Why?
I was just asking.
Oh, you got a little sticky with that there. Hold on a second. And then she's like, oh, my freeze game is so on point. But I think with this witness, the freeze game is always going to be on point, right? He said, when you saw the car down by the flagpole, did you ever go out? It's like, why would I? She attacked him. The evil came out. The claws came out. Listen, she already said she saw the car move. The last time it was past the flagpole. I think that's the first time she ever said that. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and watch it again.
No, she
Watch
said
the
that
evil
before.
come out. Ready?
Anything?
No.
Did he ever text you again that night?
He never texted me again.
Never called again?
No.
Did you continue to text him over the next 15, 20 minutes?
I did, yes.
And so at some point, did you realize that John O'Keefe and the defendant weren't coming in the house?
Yes, when the car was gone.
Did you ever go outside through the storm down to the flagpole to speak to them?
No.
Why not?
Why not?
Why would I?
I was just asking. All right.
I was just
I had no
asking.
reason to.
Take a step
So-
back.
When you were in the house, at some point, did you notice that the car was gone?
Yes.
Were you marking the time or keeping track of it?
No.
After you didn't see
Last
the
time she
defendant's
was.
car anymore, did you stay?
Yes.
How long do you think you stayed for at the house?
I stayed till about around 1:30, 1:45-ish.
Did anybody else come in
Don't
the
you
house?
have a timeline to
up
help you
until
with that?
1:45?
No.
Did people leave at certain times?
Yes, people did leave.
Who was the first to leave?
Brian Higgins?
Do you remember about what time he left?
I don't.
And
You
after
have a
Mr. Higgins left,
timeline,
do you know who left?
Jennifer. Jennifer,
I'm-
you have a timeline, Jennifer. You made a timeline because John's mom, Mrs. O'Keefe, told you to make a timeline, allegedly, you and Carrie Roberts, to make a timeline. In fact, the timeline was written down by your sister, Denise, who may or may
Yep,
not be in the
yep.
courtroom. I don't know. Somebody said she was.
Yep,
Somebody
yep,
said that's not her sister, Denise. It's a different sister. I don't really know.
Yep.
You can't even get the timeline right, even though you made one, because now your whole timeline has to change. Stick to the script. Higgins left first. Caitlin.
Yes, people did leave.
Who was the first to leave?
Brian Higgins.
Do you remember about what time he left?
I don't.
And after Mr. Higgins left, do you know who left?
Be around 1:30.
I'm not sure. I believe it was us, and then my niece Caitlin was also like at the door. It was kind of in a row. Brian left, and then a little bit later, I think it was myself, Matt, Julie, and Sarah left. But Caitlin was at the door. I believe she was waiting for her ride.
How much longer after Mr. Higgins left did you leave?
Maybe a half. I honestly
Half hour,
can't
15
Made a
minutes.
timeline.
say. I think he was there for a while I was there. So maybe he left anywhere from 15 minutes, approximately 15, 20 minutes before I did, or maybe a little more.
You mentioned that you had left
Jenny,
the
Jenny, don't lose
waterfall
that
after-
number. Jenny. You got one job. Your job was the timeline. And now you know nothing about nothing. You've had nothing to do but practice this story for the past year until this new re-persecution started. You had one job. It was a timeline, and you got nothing. Now you remember nothing.
She
Wow, just wow.
she calls it persecution. I call it railroading.
after midnight?
Yes,
Hold on, sorry.
while I was there. So maybe he left anywhere from 15 minutes, approximately 15, 20 minutes before I did, or maybe a little more.
You mentioned that you had left the waterfall after midnight,
Yes,
and you had phone calls with Mr. O'Keefe along the way.
yes,
Do you know that there are phone records with your text messages and phone calls in them?
yes,
And do you know whether your phone records reflect the time of your calls with Mr. O'Keefe
yes,
and your text messages?
Mm-hmm.
yes.
When you were texting
She knows the feds are watching.
Mr.
They are.
O'Keefe, when the Lexus or
At
the
least
car
that's
was
what
in
we
front of
think.
the house, rather, was Mr. Higgins still there?
Yes.
What are some of the things that everybody did along that night before you left? What happened in there?
What happened inside the house?
Yeah.
Nothing. We
The man was beat to
basically
death.
just sat around the table, talked, laughed, listened to music, chit-chatted.
Celebratory?
Yes.
Was there ever any fighting,
No, none at all.
any arguing,
None at
See her
all.
nose
Any-
growing?
physical interaction?
No, none.
When you decided to leave that night, did you say around 1:45-ish?
Yes.
When you left around 1:45, was there any events that happened that night that would cause you unrest or excitement or your heartbeat to race?
Or grave concerns.
No.
When you decided to leave, you and your husband,
Or like Chloe being led slowly out of the house? Somebody's daughter's the one that supposedly took Chloe out of the house around this time.
where were you going to go?
We were dropping off Julie Nagel and Sarah Levinson, and then we were going home.
Tell us about the bread and the
Had you
peanut
planned
butter.
on dropping them off earlier in the night?
No, when we got there, Julie's brother had pulled up to pick them up, and
I
we
won't
just.
ask you what was said because you weren't there.
Oh,
But
okay.
at some point, did you come to an understanding that you would give them a ride home?
Yes.
Did you offer?
Yes.
Who was going to drive home between you and your husband?
Matt drove home.
When you left, I want you to describe as you step out into the driveway or the walkway. Was it the front door or side door, if you remember?
I walked out the front door.
Is the weather like it was when you first got there?
No, it's picked up.
Tell us what you mean by it's picked up.
So as I walk out, you kind of go the walkway to the left. So I walk down the steps, I go to the left. The snow was coming, it was cold, the wind was picking up. So I kind of just like curled up and ran to my car quick to get in.
Oh, yeah, you ran to your car. Is that why you didn't see the body on the lawn?
Because she's curled up.
And also, now, doesn't it make more sense to you when I was saying yesterday that I thought the view of the house was too early? Because after this testimony, you could see how small the lawn was. You came right out the front door and you didn't see a body on the lawn. The wind was picking up. It was snowing. Would have been obvious. I'm sure they have lighting.
Yeah.
It was too early for the jury view. Her tongue is sticking out of her mouth if you're not looking at your screen. She didn't see the body. She ran. Yeah, she didn't slip. What kind of shoes were you wearing? Black Magic Woman. I think that's on there.
What part of the car did you get into?
I front passenger.
Who was driving?
Matt.
And where were the other two people?
Sarah and Julie were in the back seat.
Who was in which spot?
I'm not exactly sure.
So both of the young women were in the back seat?
Yes.
Was there any conversation when you got into the car?
We got in the car and they were teasing me
Why were they teasing you?
because I had like bread and maybe peanut butter in my car.
Why did you have bread and peanut butter in your car?
I had my niece for the week, and
There's the
I
peanut
was
butter story.
I was dragging her like to all my kids' sporting events. So we'd go from like one game to another game to a practice. So sometimes instead of always giving her McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, I'd try to throw her a peanut butter sandwich.
Okay. So that's Melanie Little. And I enjoy the tidbits that she drops throughout her coverage, the puzzle pieces that she puts together as it's going along. I'm going to go ahead and God, why can't I remember this from movement to movement? I'm going to just go ahead and that's how. You got to stop one before you can start another. I think, where are we? This is 6:32. Okay. We're going to pick up pretty close to that. Oh, right here.
And I was dragging her like to all my kids' sporting events. So we'd go from like one game to another game to a practice. So sometimes instead of always giving her McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, I'd try to throw her a peanut butter sandwich.
And they were making fun of you?
Yeah.
As the car backs out of the driveway, tell us what you're doing.
I'm talking to the girls.
You just moved your head.
Yes.
Does that mean anything?
Yes.
Tell us.
Because if she's looking this way, she doesn't see the yard.
Sitting behind me, so I was like turning and, chatting and talking.
After your husband pulls out of the driveway, do you start to drive home?
Yes.
If the house is on my right and you're driving, are you in the passenger seat closest to the house or furthest away?
Passenger seat closest.
So you're driving, if you look at a picture of the house, you would be driving from right to left?
Yes.
So as you start to drive, or your husband starts to drive the car, what direction are you looking in, if you remember?
The back seat.
Did you drive by the front of the house, do you know?
We pulled out of the driveway and went up Chapman.
Okay. And your husband and you passed by the front of the house?
Yes.
Did you pass by the flagpole?
Yes.
Were you looking at the flagpole?
No.
And how dark was it at that point?
It was dark.
Snow?
Yes.
As you're passing the flagpole, do you hear or see anything remarkable?
No, I'm not really paying attention. I'm just chatting to the girls, and Matt's just focusing on driving.
When you're talking to the girls and they're making fun of you, what's the mood in the car?
We're all laughing and joking.
Where do you go next?
We drive Julie Nagel home.
After you drop off Snagel, where do you go?
We drop off Sarah Lenson.
Is the weather constant?
Yes.
After you drop off the young women in such spots, where do you go?
We went home.
Can you tell us when you get home, what happens next?
We go in the house. I go up to bed. Matt makes himself a snack and joins me upstairs.
Have an iPhone?
Yes.
When you go to bed, do you stay up at all?
Yes.
Do you use your iPhone?
Yes, I do.
What were you doing?
I texted a few people and then I did a couple of Google searches.
And what were the searches for?
One, my daughter had played in a basketball game earlier in the night, and it was a very good game. So I went and I read the report on it. And then my other daughter had an offer to play on a basketball team. So we had to make a decision about whether or not we were going to accept the spot. So I was just looking up that basketball club.
This is the lady who allegedly, at 2:27 a.m., typed in a Google search. She meant to say how, but it came up Haas. Haas long to die in the cold. Denies it, of course. Deletes it. And then allegedly around 6:30 in the morning, after they found John, she thinks, well, nobody might be able to find it. I'm going to come up with an excuse why it's there. So she allegedly types it in again. Only this time she gets other people to say that they heard Karen ask her to hypothermia, how long hypothermia. Carrie's husband, I think, is an IT tech, or her husband is an IT tech. Well, they're all whispering to each other and say, you gotta do this, you gotta cover your tracks, you gotta. It has been but they are all co-conspirators in my opinion. And this whole stream is my opinion. So anyway, around this allegedly show that she Googled that and deleted it. Well, I don't even know how to delete a Google thing. I wouldn't. But she's kind of sad.
Other than those regular that one would do, is anything remarkable about you to 27 that right?
No.
That she'd admit.
After you were looking at sites for your child sports, what did you do?
I put my head and went to sleep.
Up until that, had been any word or arguments in your world?
No.
Peaceful?
Yes.
Did you go to sleep, Ms. McCabe?
Yes.
Did you sleep through the night?
I typically get up to go to the bathroom, so that I could have gotten up possibly to go to the bathroom.
Did anything remarkable happen in the early morning hours of January 29, 2022 that changed that peaceful mood into something else?
Yes.
Before she gets into that, one of the IT guys who had the phone readouts her phone showed her pacing, moving around a lot in the morning. Like, okay, how do we do this? How do we fix that? How do we do? So what she's saying right now is not true or accurate, according to her phone.
I want you to share with the jury the first thing that happens that changes everything.
At 4:53, my phone rings and I look at my caller ID. I look at the phone and it's Kaylee, John's niece. John's niece. And I say hello, and she said, yeah, well, basically she relayed to me that
Next question.
When you pick up the phone, could you hear a voice on the other end?
She
I
can't
heard a voice
repeat
and a
it.
lot of screaming.
And the voice you heard, is that Kaylee, John's niece?
Yes,
And the screaming, was it a man or a woman screaming?
it was a woman.
How loud was that person screaming?
Very loud.
Could you make out anything that person was saying as they were screaming?
My name was screamed a lot. And then the other individual ended up getting on the phone with me.
And who was that person that was screaming in the background?
Miss Reed.
How long was she screaming for while you were speaking to your niece before you spoke to her?
The entire time I was speaking to Kaylee, she was screaming.
Describe her demeanor.
Frantic.
Miss Reed's.
Yes.
Jen! Jen! And then she's screaming that John didn't come home. She left him at the waterfall. She was hysterical. It was very hard to follow what she was saying.
How long did that first call last for?
I'm not sure how long, maybe possibly a few minutes, but it was loud enough and long enough that my husband shot up in bed thinking one of my kids had come in the room screaming.
Without saying what your niece said, could you describe your niece's demeanor when you first spoke to her? I mean, John's niece's demeanor.
I would say Kaylee sounded concerned, uneasy.
Okay. During that phone call, other than the screaming and the screaming of your name, did the defendant give you any information other than she had dropped John off at the waterfall?
They'd gotten into a fight. She had left him there and he didn't come home.
And when you were woken up, were you in a sleep when you were woken up?
Yes, I was sound asleep.
What was your mental state like when you first woke up and got that call?
Well, I had been up late. I had taken my medication that I take for my MS, so I was definitely a bit groggy when I first woke up. So immediately I just wanted to help her. She was hysterical. Kaylee was upset. So I went into that kind of mom mode of what can I do? How can I help? So I immediately was like thinking, okay, well, if you left him at the waterfall, let me think who was still there, or, you know, how can I help you? How can we find John?
Did you have a plan when you ended that first call?
I did. I knew Chris Albert had still been at the waterfall when I left. So I thought if Karen and John had gotten into a fight, maybe Chris had walked out of the bar and Chris lived local to the bar, thought maybe they walked back to Chris's together.
So what did you do?
So I called Chris Albert's wife, Julie.
Did you speak to her?
No, she never answered.
After you had a moment to make a phone call and think about things, did your head become any more clearer?
It did. And I was, reminded by my husband that we had seen Karen and John's car outside of Fairview.
When he reminded you, did you independently remember the text messages that you sent to John earlier that evening?
Immediately, I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Did you remember that you had seen what you believed to be the defendant's car in front of the house and near the flagpole?
Objection, Your Honor. Watch the form.
Okay. What did you remember? What came to mind after you spoke to your husband about your memory from earlier that evening?
In other
The
words,
minute
was
he
leaving.
said it, I remember seeing the SUV and then all the text messages that I had and the phone conversation with John.
So after the defendant spoke to you and said she had left the defendant at the waterfall and you had time to think about your memories, did you react or do anything with that?
Yes, I believe I called Kaylee back.
Why did you call Kaylee?
I didn't have Miss Reed's phone number.
When you called Kaylee back, did you speak to anybody?
Yes, I believe Kaylee and then Miss Reed.
When you first spoke to Kaylee, could you hear anything other than Kaylee?
The screaming.
Was it any different or was it similar to the first time you spoke by phone?
Similar to the first time.
Regarding the demeanor or intensity, had it changed at all?
Not at all.
You mentioned the first time that you had that phone call, the defendant was screaming your name. Jen,
Yes.
Jen, Jen. Was she saying your name in the second call or was it just general screaming?
My name. And then when she got on the phone, I had told her, Karen, I saw you guys outside of my sister's house. And then she told me she didn't remember being there. And then she went on to say, she started saying, could I have hit him? Did I hit him? And then she just was just all over the place, like screaming my name, screaming so many different things. She was hard to follow or understand.
When she was saying to you, did I hit him? Could have I hit him? Was that before or after you informed her that you had seen her out front of your sister's house?
It was after I told her that. She also informed me that she had cracked her taillight.
In that conversation, she told you that?
In one of the conversations I had with her in my bedroom, yes.
When
Nope.
when you told her that
Liar,
you had
liar.
seen her out front, and
Mm-hmm.
she had said that she didn't remember that night, was that before or after she was saying, did I hit him? Could have I hit him?
Can you repeat the question?
So
Sorry.
she was telling you about that she didn't remember that night.
Her story is changing from last time. And last time was much closer to the incident. So if she was being honest last time, the taillight doesn't come up until they actually pull up into John O'Keefe's driveway, when they go back to check first to make sure that John didn't come home and isn't in the house passed out somewhere. Now she's saying it over the phone. That taillight wasn't cracked until she backs out of the garage, hits John's car as she's pulling out, and then pulling around to leave, to head over to her house to get her so that they can go look for John. In the meantime, Carrie gets involved and says she will meet them there. Carrie says, let's take her car, not her car, Karen's car, leave it at John's, and let them drive, let her drive, because she was in no condition to be driving. So that's what they end up doing. But what she's saying right now, she never said that before. Never.
Was that before or after you had told her about seeing her car?
When I said I saw her at Fairview, then her response was she didn't even remember going there.
Did she ever deny that she came to Mr. O'Keefe's house? I mean, to your sister's house?
No.
When she told you or said to you, did I hit him or could have I hit him or something like that, did you have any idea what she was talking about?
No, I didn't pay attention to it.
When she told you that she had cracked her taillight the night before, did that have any significance at that time to you?
No.
So in telling you these different things, did you ever piece them together at that time?
No.
What was your primary motivation at that point?
I just wanted to help her because she was hysterical. Kaylee was very upset, so I wanted to help her, and I wanted to find John.
I can't handle much more of her. So I'm going to fast forward. Oh. Let's see how far we get.
To Carrie, because she doesn't know where my sister lives. Oh, her house is just at the bottom of the street.
Visibility still difficult?
Yes, awful.
What happens next?
We continue, driving, and we're driving slowly past, the line of, I guess, bushes and the flagpole area. And all of a sudden, Karen's screaming from the back, there he is, or something to the effect of, there he is, let me out.
Did you know what she was talking about?
I had no idea.
When she was yelling that, did you look out the window?
They were just looking for him.
Yeah, we were like,
there
we
he
had
is.
our eyes peeled out the window.
Don't know what she's talking
Did you
about.
see anything?
Nothing but snow.
How long was she yelling about whatever it is she was saying?
Carrie, she screamed, stop. So Carrie stopped pretty quickly. There he is. She could have kicked the door, like, let me out of here.
And when she was kicking the door, what were you doing?
I was just like, what the heck? What is going on?
What happens next?
She gets out.
I would have
Carrie
been saying,
looks
where?
at me and said something. I said, like, she's batshit crazy.
Then what happens?
Then Carrie got out. Then I got out of the car, walked around the back of the car, and was walking like over to where I could see the girls were.
Now, at that point, you were in Kerry Roberts' car.
Yes,
It had its headlights on,
yes.
was it facing up the street of Fairview?
Well, we had come down the hill, so yes, up the street.
There was no other lighting in that area?
I do not believe so.
No fire engines or ambulances at that point?
No,
No police cars?
no.
Any street lights?
It was dark.
When you got out of the car, did you look towards the area of the flagpole?
Yes,
Could you see anything at that point?
no.
How close did you get to the area of the flagpole before you could first actually see something?
Well, I saw the shadowy figures of Carrie and Karen, and it wasn't until I got very close over to them that I saw Carrie removing the snow from John's face.
Is that the first moment you realized that was John O'Keefe on the ground?
Yes, it was.
When you see Kerry removing the snow from John's face, what do you do?
I was frozen. I was shocked. I couldn't believe that was him just lying there.
Tell us what you're seeing.
What do I see?
I don't know about anybody else, but she's making herself cry. When you cry spontaneously, it's just there. You don't have to work yourself up to it.
I see Carrie just wiping the snow off. Karen had straddled him and had lifted her shirt and his shirt and was laying on him, and Carrie was screaming at her to get off of him. And I was literally just stunned. I mean, there he was.
What did John look like when you saw him?
I couldn't see much but his face, because the rest was snow and Karen was moving over him, but he just looked like just him, but just like frozen.
What did you do?
At first, I just stood there for a minute because I couldn't believe it was him. And then Kerry Roberts and I made eye contact. And I knew, I was like, all right, I'm going to call 911. But I think I knew in that moment that John.
According to Carrie told her to call 911.
That John, was dead.
Did you call 911?
Yeah, I started to call 911, and Kerry and Karen were just screaming. And so I walked back towards Kerry's car, and then Kerry was also yelling at me to go to the back of the car to look for blankets and towels. So as I was calling 911, I was at the back of the car looking for the towels and the blankets to bring over to Kerry. And while I was doing that, I believe 911 answered.
Did you speak to 911?
I did, yes.
Did you get the towels and blankets that Kerry had requested?
I did, yes.
After your phone call with 911,
And the phone call wasn't, one of my dearest friends is laying on the ground and we think he's hurt, he's injured, come help. There's a man lying on the ground in the snow. Does that match anything of somebody whose dear friend ends up lying on the ground in the snow after missing for who knows how long?
you had the towels and blankets. Tell us what happens next.
So after I called 911, I went back over to Kerry, Karen, and John. And at that point, Kerry asked if I would take over compressions. So she got up and I started doing compressions, and Karen was doing mouth to mouth.
When you started doing compressions, were you touching John over his clothes or touching his skin?
I don't remember.
Did you at that point get a chance to touch John's body and see how it felt temperature-wise?
I just
Bleeding.
remember when I was doing the compressions, I don't really know how to explain it. It just felt very funny.
I'm sorry, very
It just wasn't like normal.
Why?
I don't.
Here's the thing. Last time, it was only Carrie doing the compressions. This time, the story has changed. Carrie says her knees were, and this is logical, but this isn't what they said last time. This is the first time we heard that Jennifer McCabe helped with the compressions. That Carrie called her over, and Carrie said this too, cohorts. Carrie said that she called Jen over to relieve her because her legs were freezing. There's all kinds of new things here.
I can't think of how to describe the way it felt when I was trying to press down, but it was like resistance.
How long did you try to give compressions and give aid to John for?
Until the police came.
Mr. Brennan, why don't we end here?
Thank you.
All right, Ms. McCabe, we need you back tomorrow. Okay. Stay. Okay. Jurors, that's it for today. I have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into this case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about this case, please disregard it and let us know. And again, please be very careful with your social media. All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
And it looks like she comes back.
Goodbye.
Yep, she's back.
We're back in session. You may see.
All right, Mr. Brennan, I'll hear you.
This has got to be about
Your
ARCA.
Honor, in light of yesterday's hearing with the ARCA witnesses, the Commonwealth is going to ask the court to preclude the ARCA witnesses from testifying both about any new testing and any new opinions, and secondly, from testifying about their original opinions turned over in a report prior to last year's trial. To be brief, what we learned or confirmed is that we do not have all of the discovery of communications. There was a court order
Bullshit.
for the ARCA witnesses to provide Your Honor with all of their information, phone records, text messages, communications about this case. Instead of providing their information to the court, they instead chose to send it to the defense, and then it was summarized and provided by the defense to the court and to the Commonwealth. It appears to me that is not in compliance with the court's order. What we learned during the hearing yesterday is that Dr. Wolf admittedly destroyed over 100 text messages. Now, he mentioned that he
text messages.
changed phone carriers, but then later admitted that he actually intentionally, for no apparent reason, destroyed the text messages in this case.
The lies, the mistruths, the shadiness that comes out of this man's mouth with ease. He is totally misrepresenting what went on yesterday. Totally misrepresenting it.
And so what is left for Your Honor to look at is a summary of phone records from the defense and ARCA's information that is passed through the defense to the court. You do not have the text messages. You do not have the content of the text messages. There is no summary of the conversations, dozens and dozens of calls between the defense and the experts. It is difficult to believe that all of those text messages and all of those phone conversations dealt with simply logistics. In fact,
They did.
we later learned during the questioning of Dr. Renschler, there is much more involved than simply logistics. But to get back to Dr. Wolf, he did not disclose to the court that he was communicating and having conversations on Signal. How odd an expert using Signal. Never used it before. Dr. Rentschler said would not use Signal, never use Signal. But Signal, as we know, is an application that does not create a record of communications.
Can't stand this man.
Dr. Wolf maintained on his direct that everything he did was logistics, even when we showed him the direct examinations with comments that asked for input from the defense to questions in a way that would be advantageous to the defense and to thwart the Commonwealth. Dr. Wolf actually.
It wasn't to thwart the Commonwealth. It was to suggest, to make it clear to the jury so they understand what their report is, what they're trying to say. It wasn't to shade anything. He is such a liar. Such a liar.
Actually still continued to testify that that was simply procedure and logistics, never admitting the fact that there was, in fact, conversations or information exchanged about bettering the presentation for the defense. Inevitably, I asked him about the sequestration order and how evasive he was. You simply have to compare him to Dr. Rentschler, who was quite candid. An hour or 45 minutes with Dr. Wolf, difficult getting a straight answer. Dr. Rentschler told us more in 5 minutes than Dr. Wolf told us his entire examination. And what we unfortunately learned is that during the trial, when this court had a sequestration order, information was being passed to the experts about witness testimony, in this case, unknown to the Commonwealth, unknown to the court,
unknown to the defense,
particular information, not general information, witness testimony, issues in the case. We have no idea who is deciding or identifying the issues and who the advantage is given to in describing those issues. But that is witnesses being prepped through an intermediary. So we know the Department of Justice, at least, is violating the order, helping the witnesses along, and then they testify unbeknownst to the Commonwealth that they have this information, but obviously is reflected in the testimony.
My question is, my understanding is, under normal circumstances, but then of course Judge Bev's court is not normal. Expert witnesses are exempt from this sequestration. They can listen to somebody else's testimony, especially another expert's testimony. Remember the Depp trial? Remember the two psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever they were? And I can't remember their names now, but one was an idiot and the other one was like top notch. They could sit in the courtroom. What's it called when you sit in the galley or whatever? And listen to the other person testifying. Why is it different in Judge Bev's court? I don't think the sequestration should apply. But even if it did, who cares? I know I don't.
In addition, I've provided some clips to Your Honor for review.
Yes, do you want me to mark these as an exhibit?
I do.
Okay, so this was an exhibit from yesterday.
He's such a whiner.
I did have the opportunity to look at them.
I suggest that the relationship was not resigned to mere logistics. And so from that subterfuge, what we stand with today is that we know that the witnesses were well prepared. We know that there was not true independence. And what we know is that they are refusing to provide the necessary information to support their original opinions that they gave at the first trial. They cited that it was a protective order. Perhaps it is. That has nothing to do with the issue. By calling the ARCA witnesses as their witnesses, they then have the obligation to comply with Rule 14. Unlike the first trial, where the Commonwealth had no ability to do any testing, review, vet the reliability of the information, properly prepare for cross-examination, this trial, that should not occur. Just because it happened last trial,
Sir, you are an
and the
idiot.
Commonwealth was disadvantaged, does not mean it should happen this trial. And that is precisely why I began moving for discovery in this case early
Oh,
on.
yeah, because you're just
Inevitably, if these
top-notch.
witnesses cannot provide information because it's under a protective order, it may not be the defendant's fault in its inception, but it is their problem and difficulty because they chose to hire the ARCA witnesses. They could have chosen any witnesses they want. Rule 14 is not obviated because they made a strategic decision to call the ARCA witnesses. So now going into this trial, even Dr. Rentschler admitted that an expert should have time, in their opinion, a month or more, to review the raw materials. It's not enough simply to have a report, as Attorney Alisi preached during his argument. We should have the opportunity to go through the raw data, the history, the videos, determine whether there's any failed testing. We don't have that benefit.
The prosecution
And so my
is
position
being
has
persecuted.
changed, that those early opinions should not come in because we have no ability to fairly cross-examine. As for the new opinions, the report may not be done till May 7th. We are in the middle of trial. Concedingly by the defense, or at least their witnesses, it takes a month to go through the discovery. When I filed my motion on the eve of trial that we would be unable to prepare or we would want a continuance in this
And I
case, I
fast forward
appreciate
through
why
this.
this case wasn't continued. But I knew, given our scheduling, our experts will not be able to look at this material. Our expert is away until after the first week of May. He is going to be testifying shortly after. He will have no ability to digest this enormous amount of materials, vet whether it's accurate or not, conduct tests to combat it if he thinks that it is inaccurate or unfair. And so the discovery violations, regardless of the state of mind, are upon the defendant. There is no exception that you used ARCA witnesses. There is no exception that you hired somebody that used to be under a federal protective order. They chose them, and I would suggest it seems strategically. When we noticed we'd have new experts in October, the defense from past experience, and probably other experience, but we know from this case, knows the process. They would have to file a TUI letter and wait for a response. And yet they waited until February to seek permission, which then extended their permission past February into March, and then they didn't even start the review until late March. And so it's fundamentally unfair. We should not be placed in the position of cross-examining experts without the fair ability, as any participant, defendant, Commonwealth, any participant would have in a case, to consider and then to rebut. And so for that reason, I ask you to exclude both the new opinions and new testing, and also to exclude the earlier opinions that we will never
They are
at this
so
point
scared.
receive the proper discovery with to prepare.
They're so
All right,
scared
thank
of
you.
ARCA.
Mr. Lassie, I only have one question for you. So would you stand, please? You're arguing this, right? This was your motion. So my question is, how do I reconcile the fact that 100 text messages were deleted by counsel? And we heard yesterday counsel's preferred method of dealing with Dr. Wolf was via Signal. How do we reconcile that with the Massachusetts Rules of Professional Conduct 1.15? I don't see how you reconcile that, where all correspondence related to the matter, whether in physical or electronic form, must be saved for 10 years minimum. How do you reconcile that? How do I reconcile that?
I'm gonna, should I go to the podium?
Right there, and I expect a short answer.
The short answer, Your Honor, is the rule that you're citing has absolutely no applicability to this proceeding for this. Can I finish my answer, Your Honor?
Right ahead.
Has no applicability. That rule is intended to be between an attorney and the client. The court has no jurisdiction to enforce that rule.
I agree. I agree. That's a different body, but I'm asking you how I reconcile that when I'm trying to figure this out. Mr. Leslie, you know what? You're going to win this, so why don't you just let me make my ruling, okay? So I understand there have been repeated violations of the reciprocal discovery orders and my orders, repeated and deliberate. But, and Mr. Brennan, I understand completely the Commonwealth's argument, completely the ambush that has been set upon here. However, the
Bullshit.
defendant's right to a fair trial is paramount to everything. So I'm going to allow the ARCA witnesses to testify. I am going to allow what I expect to be a very robust cross-examination. And I'm going to allow them to testify to everything that they said up until yesterday. So you'll get the report May 7th. And I know that's late, And if you need anything as a result of that being late, I'll hear you on whatever motion you have. But that's where we stand. And I expect council to comply with all rulings and rules of the court and all rules of professional conduct, and no more nonsense. Let's just try this case. All right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow.
All rise in the court, please.
She very rarely, as I've heard others say, she very rarely hit my foot. Very rarely rules from the bench, which is what she just did. Normally she has to, I'll take it under consideration, and she has to, do a whole thing and then release the whole thing. So that's what I heard somebody say, that it was probably Melanie a little. But still, even though the ruling was in the defense's favor, it's begrudgingly. It said with malice. It said with all kinds of accusations of impropriety. I ask God in all his wisdom to send special trial angels, angels of justice, angels of protection over the innocent, to surround this trial, to bring forth truth, justice, the American way, but primarily truth and justice for Karen Reed, for Officer John O'Keefe, and to put a rest to the deception and the evil that is permeating this whole thing and has been abusing the people of Massachusetts for decades and decades. And I ask for it in the name of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Don't ask me where that came from, but I did it because this is so aggravating. Okay, folks. We'll see what we do tomorrow. But ARCA gets to testify and gets to talk about the other, not crash test dummies, the other, whatever the Commonwealth comes up with, gets to render their opinion of the other people's report. It's ridiculous. So ridiculous. Well, we'll put it to rest for tonight. Do you like my tiger? Beachy, my tiger. Because I'm the snarky juror. I need to come up with new intros and outros, and what was it I was going to look for? I was going to look for, no. Oh, that. How do I add a logo? Might as well do it now. Where's the snarky juror? Here it is. Let's see. That might be too big. Oh, maybe not. Yeah. I can do that. I've got a new logo to put up in the corner. This one can go away because, well, all I have to do is exit out. Delete this logo? Yes. Okay. So that's that. I was thinking about that. I went, ooh, I should have done that. Now, let's see, it's 9:48 my time. It gives me a few hours to do a few things. It's not always going to happen. But for the second night in a row, the big guy did not bark, did not disrupt, did not inhibit me in any way, shape, or form. How cool. Okay, time for me to go do a load of laundry I've been putting off for days. So I'll say goodnight for now. We will, what am I getting ready to do? Oh, I don't have to do anything. They did a couple things that streamlined stuff a little bit. Whatever. So I'll be back tomorrow to see the rest of Jennifer McCabe's story, because I don't believe most of it. And I don't know who comes up after that. But I'm waiting for the cross-examination by whoever is on the defense team. It's the only reason I'm watching is because of the defense team. It's the only reason. If you happen to go to Attorney Melanie Little's page, channel, whatever they call it, in her show notes, she has a link if you want to contribute to the Free Karen Read Fund. Maybe someday I'll be enough together that it'll be in mine as well. So until then, go, you'll find it. So I'll say goodnight for now. And if I'm up for it, I'll be back tomorrow. So until then, you guys take care and God bless.